I lost everything in a single day. The house I had spent 15 years paying for was no longer mine. The car I had driven my children to school in was gone. Even the savings account I believed would protect my future had been emptied through a bitter legal settlement. Friends disappeared, relatives stopped answering my calls, and the woman I once trusted more than anyone walked away without looking back. But what hurt the most wasn't losing my possessions. It was hearing her say, "You'll never recover from this." At that moment, I made one silent promise to myself. If I ever stood back on my feet, it wouldn't be because I got lucky. It would be because I became someone no one could ever break again. And 5 years later, life gave me the chance to prove exactly that. Before we continue, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you enjoy emotional stories about revenge, redemption, and unbelievable second chances, you're in the right place. Now let's see how losing everything became the greatest gift of one man's life. When I signed the final divorce papers, it felt as though my entire identity had been erased. My ex-wife, Rachel, had walked away with the house, the luxury SUV, most of our savings, and nearly everything we had built together. The court had ruled in her favor because my business had already failed months before, leaving me unable to fight an expensive legal battle. I packed my clothes into 2 old suitcases and rented the cheapest room I could find above a small grocery store. Every morning I woke to the sound of delivery trucks and wondered how someone who had once managed a successful construction company had ended up sleeping on a mattress so thin that I could feel the wooden boards beneath it. I searched endlessly for work, but people only remembered my failed business, not the years of honest success that came before it. Rejection after rejection slowly chipped away at my confidence. Some nights I skipped dinner just to save enough money for rent. I sold my expensive watch, then my laptop, and finally the wedding ring I had never imagined taking off. The loneliness was unbearable, but the humiliation was even worse. One afternoon, while sitting on a park bench with less than $20 left in my pocket, I watched workers renovating a nearby office building. Instead of feeling jealous, I noticed something everyone else ignored. Their project management was chaotic. Materials arrived late, workers stood around waiting, and money was clearly being wasted. Years of experience allowed me to see opportunities hidden inside other people's mistakes. That evening, I filled an old notebook with ideas for a consulting business that would help construction companies save time and money. I had no investors, no office, no employees, and no guarantee anyone would hire me. All I had left was knowledge that nobody could seize through a courtroom. The next several months tested every ounce of determination I possessed. I borrowed an outdated laptop from a retired neighbor and spent countless hours teaching myself modern business software and digital marketing. During the day, I visited construction sites, introducing myself to managers who usually dismissed me before I finished speaking. At night, I studied contracts, budgeting techniques, and leadership books from the public library. Most people saw failure as the end of a story, but I began treating it as the beginning of my education. Eventually, one small contractor agreed to let me review his operations. Instead of charging money up front, I promised he would only pay if I actually saved him more than my fee. Within 6 weeks, I reorganized his supply chain, reduced wasted labor hours, and increased his profit significantly. Word spread faster than I expected. Another contractor called, then another, and soon I was driving across the state helping companies improve their efficiency. Every payment I received went straight back into growing the business instead of buying luxuries. While others celebrated quick success, I quietly built systems, hired talented employees, and earned a reputation for honesty and reliability. My tiny consulting service evolved into a respected operations firm serving dozens of companies. The greatest lesson I learned wasn't about business at all. It was about character. Losing my wealth forced me to discover discipline. Losing my marriage forced me to understand self-respect. Losing my reputation forced me to earn a better one. 5 years after sleeping above that grocery store, I stood inside the glass headquarters of my own company. Hundreds of employees depended on the organization I had built from nothing. Every office wall represented perseverance instead of privilege, and every paycheck reminded me that true security comes from skills. Success changed my lifestyle, but it never erased the memories of where I had started. I still visited the same neighborhood where I had once rented that tiny room because it reminded me to stay humble. One rainy Monday morning, My assistant informed me that several applicants were waiting for interviews. Normally, department managers handled hiring, but one resume caught my attention because the applicant had extensive administrative experience, yet had been unemployed for over a year. As I entered the interview room, I froze. Sitting across the table was Rachel. She looked exhausted, her expensive designer clothes replaced by inexpensive second-hand outfits, and the confidence she once carried had disappeared completely. She stared at me in disbelief, unable to recognize the quiet, broken man she had left years earlier. After several seconds, she whispered my name, her voice trembling. Tears filled her eyes as she admitted that the money she had received during the divorce had slowly vanished through poor investments, bad decisions, and people who had only pretended to be friends. The beautiful house had been repossessed. The luxury car had been sold to cover debts. Even those who had encouraged her to leave me had abandoned her when life became difficult. She confessed she hadn't known this company belonged to me until my assistant announced the CEO would conduct the interview personally. The room fell silent. I remembered every painful word she had spoken, every sleepless night, every moment I questioned my worth. Part of me wanted revenge. Another part realized revenge had already happened without my involvement. Life itself had delivered consequences more powerful than anger ever could. Rachel lowered her eyes and quietly apologized for everything she had done. She admitted that during our marriage she had mistaken temporary success for permanent security and believed money mattered more than loyalty. Hearing those words brought an unexpected sense of peace instead of satisfaction. I realized forgiveness wasn't about giving someone another chance to hurt me. It was about refusing to let old pain control my future. I explained that although I appreciated her apology, I couldn't pretend the past had never happened. Trust, once broken, could not simply be rebuilt with words. However, I also believed everyone deserved an opportunity to rebuild their lives if they were willing to work honestly. Rather than offering her a position she wasn't qualified for, I referred her to our workforce development program, where unemployed adults receive training and assistance finding jobs with partner companies. She thanked me through tears before quietly leaving my office. Months later, I learned she had completed the program and found stable employment elsewhere. We never became friends again, nor did we attempt to rewrite history. Some chapters are meant to stay closed. As I stood in my office overlooking the city skyline, I understood the greatest victory wasn't owning a larger house or driving a better car than before. Those things could always disappear. The real victory was becoming the kind of person whose confidence, wisdom, discipline, and integrity could never be taken away by any court, any betrayal, or any financial loss. I had once believed my house, my car, and my savings defined my success. Losing them taught me they had only been temporary possessions. The person I became while rebuilding my life was something no one could ever steal. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Remember, people can take your money, your house, and your possessions, but they can never take your determination to rise again. Thanks for watching.